Randy Howell here with the last wrap-up of the season on the new Bass Pro Tour Major League Fishing event. We just finished up at Wisconsin. We had a good week in Wisconsin. If you guys followed it all week, we had a great record crowd watching live, everybody trying to see the live stream events there going into the end. Congratulations to Cliff Pace that pulled it out there in the end. But I headed into that tournament, as we know from the previous wrap-up, in 37th in the points, so I needed to move up 7 spots to get that coveted top 30 spot for the Red Crest Classic we have. That's our $300,000 no entry fee event that'll be in La Crosse, Wisconsin in August, and that's what we were all shooting for. I was only 13 points out. Mathematically, it looked like I needed a top 25 finish to make that. So I go into the event thinking Winnebago is a big smallmouth lake. You couldn't find out much about it at all online. Not much research to be found on that lake other than walleye fishing. So most of the guys like myself that hadn't been there before, we were all thinking smallmouth. So the first day I get out there and it's super rough practice, bad wind, muddy water, and I wasted all of my day, the first day of practice, trying to find smallmouth offshore. Just idling with the Lowrance everywhere with the new live sight, the structure scan, the side scan, and I couldn't find any smallmouth out there anywhere. I don't know where they were. I never figured it out. Next morning we have a short day of practice. I go back out, search for them again. Finally, I'm like, man, I gotta give up on this and go to the bank, figure out the largemouth bite if I'm going to make it past this elimination and shotgun and elimination round to get to the knockout round. So I had to get to the knockout round to make the top 25 to make the classic event at the Red Crest. So I finally get on a Cinco pattern. When it gets tough, especially up north, and you got to catch some fish, you guys know I fished this old wacky Cinco quite a bit. My same Randy Howell signature power spin rod. I've talked about it a lot this year. This whole season's been a big spinning rod season because of the numbers that we catch on Major League Fishing have to be high. You got to catch numbers. We've had a lot of spotted bass events this year, but this time it was largemouth. So I paired that 7-1 power spin medium heavy up with the Tatula 4000 LT light and tough bait spinning reel. This is a super fast retrieve reel. If you notice when I'm catching fish on my fish catch videos here, as you're watching, you see how fast when I skip under the dock. I got on a dock pattern. When I skip under the dock, the fish bite it, and I set the hook. I don't set it too hard because I'm using straight braid. I'm using 20-pound Daiwa J braid straight on this spinning rod, and with a stiff, heavy wire size 1 straight shank hook, that little stinger style hook, a 5-inch Yamamoto Cinco. So that fast retrieve on that spinning reel helps you take them out of that cover quickly, get them away from the poles, away from the dock. So that was the pattern I ended up getting on in some canals with boat canals and things, and I didn't really know how many fish guys had found in the same areas because we were all in this one small area on the lake on the western shore. First day I get out there and get in the canals, and I just start skipping that wacky Cinco under the docks and start catching them slowly but surely, catching them behind other boats. Everybody's pounding the same areas, and little by little I worked my way up to I don't know how many, maybe 17 keepers or so the first day, and I've got myself right there in good position in 17th place moving into the next day. And the next day I got to stay in the top 20. So anytime you're in Bass Pro Tour this year is pretty cool. I've been on a lot of live camera in the boat a lot because I've been on that drama line, as we call it, the top 20. That's the line. So I get out there the next day, right off the bat they give me a camera guy, and he goes with me, and I decided I'll start on another area. I had an area I caught some on a swim jig in, and I got to that area first. Nobody was there, and I caught 4 or 5 real quick on a single rattleback swim jig, kind of a brim color with a Yamamoto single tail trailer. That wasn't a big pattern, but it was just kind of what I threw that morning in these shallow reeds, and I caught 4 or 5 fish really quick, jumped up to like 13th place. So I got some good footage, live started. I went to the dock pattern, and slowly but surely it kind of started sinking on me. I had a lot of guys in front of me, I think, catching fish, and before you know it, I've done slipped down to 20th and 22nd, and man, it was getting intense. And then the rest of the day I was just clawing for that top 20 spot. Me and Brett Myers and Jeff Sprague and whoever else it was on that line. It was a bunch of guys on that borderline trying to get in, Justin Lucas, and I just keep Cinco in my hand. I keep running new docks, as many as I could, and I really found a pretty good pattern with the docks. The super shallow flats, I'd run that Triton Mercury, jack that bob's plate up high, run across 2 or 3 foot of sandbars, and shut down and get up to those docks, and you could barely get to them. It was so shallow. But when I get up to them, there would be a little dugout depression under the center of the docks, almost like it was dredged out on a lot of these shorelines, and that was the pattern. I ended up kind of keying in on that in the last few hours, and that's what saved me. The Wacky Cinco, green pumpkin, purple green, that's the color that I use a lot, and I've shown you a lot of times I rub that Cinco and scrape that salt out, and it kind of changes the color, makes it look a little more natural. That's the color that got me through both days. And I caught, ended up catching a bunch. So I caught some sight fishing that day, and then the rest of them on the docks. Ended up making the 19th place. I told Robin on live, sorry I put you through this anguish again, but I got the job done, got it going. We were able to go now to a whole new lake the next day. And I didn't practice this new lake. It was called Butamore, and I didn't practice it because we only had a day and a half of practice, and I had to put my time into Winnebago because I had to get out of Winnebago to ever have a chance to move on. So I figured I'd put my time in there. Well, now I get to this lake, brand new. We get a 30-minute ride around that morning. I see docks everywhere, so I'm like, well, I guarantee you the dock pattern's going to work. But I also see a lot of frog cover. I see a lot of stuff that looks good for a frog. So I know I'm needing numbers, and I don't really think there's a lot of big fish in these lakes. So I decided I'd use a smaller frog. This is a little, I think it's a little gavacho frog, or some kind of little jackal frog. I hadn't used it very often, but it's small. It's got pretty good hooks in it. I paired this thing up with a Brent Ayler medium heavy 7.3, because Ish Monroe's frog rod, that's more of a big frog rod for heavier cover, heavier frog hooks, your normal size standard frog hooks. But this is kind of like a little junior frog with little hooks, so I didn't want to overpower it with that 7.4-ish rod. So the Brent Ayler 7.3 medium heavy, this is the multi-purpose rod. This rod's really good for a smaller frog like that. Steel straight braid. I was using 50-pound J braid Grand on there, 8.1 Tatula bait cast reel, and that was the pair. I started out with that morning on some shady banks with some lily pads and junk, and I caught a couple good fish, 2-pound, 2.5 pounders, and I felt like I was going to be able to chase that frog pattern and do well. And little by little, the sun came up. I ran out of cover. It was a really small 8,000 acre lake. Guys were all over top of each other, and I started sinking again. So I run to some docks, found some clear water. The water was a little bit dirtier there, and I changed color Cinco, and I changed from the green pumpkin purple green to this watermelon slice. This is a color I use a lot of times in Florida, and a lot of the dirtier water lakes or dark black tannic water. It's got a lot of red and a lot of green mixed in it. I would rub on it and kind of bring a little color out in that, a little salt. That color ended up catching them really good because you couldn't see the bottom around those docks. So I just kept covering as many docks as I could. Got myself all the way back up to like 12th place, man. I was doing good. I felt good about it. And then I found me some frog stuff. I caught a little one on a frog, and then boom, one bust my frog. I set the hook. I start dragging him out, and I see his mouth. He's coming, and he comes off. And it looked like a good 2.5 to 3 pounder, not knowing when it happened that was going to probably be the fish that cost me making the red crest, but that was the one. And the rest of the day, I keep skipping docks, and I ended up wasting, looking back, I wasted probably an hour and a half, 2 hours fishing stained water docks that had too much boat traffic turning the water up, and that was a bad mistake. I got back to some clear water in the last 30 minutes and caught a few more fish, got myself back to 24th. Time run out. I didn't make the 10 cut, but it was so stacked, so tight, I just knew I was a few bites away. But little did I know, Randall Tharp was right there behind me, Mark Daniels Jr., those guys, they were vying for that 30th spot too, and both those guys passed me, and they did well that day, and they ended up being 12th and 14th, and I didn't realize it, but that knocked me down. It kept me from moving up where I needed to be, and I thought that 24th was going to be enough to get me in mathematically, but in the end, I was 6 points short, which is 1 pound and 5 ounces, just 1 pound. So when you guys watch Major League Fishing and you think about every 1 pounder we catch, sometimes you're like, man, why you guys get so excited over a 1 pound bass? When it comes down to the end of the year, 1 pound bass is all it took to give me a shot to win a $300,000 event. So 1 pounders mean a lot in this format, and that's what's so exciting about the way it's set up. So that one fish I lost, I don't know if you can see it on the video here, the camera. I got my YOLO pole, the Power Stick 53 running. That's made all the good videos for us all year. Great product, by the way, to film yourself in your boat. But I had it showing that fish coming. At that one fish, I just simply got him in the boat. He just was skin hooked, hook tore out. Never know when you're dragging one out of slop. But in the end, 24th, I licked my wounds with a 31st for the year. First guy out of the Red Crest Championship. But overall, we made 6 out of 8 cuts this year. Daiwa, Livingston, Triton, Mercury, Power Pole, Lowrance, all our sponsors that were real, instrumental in the boat and the products, everything that kept us running. We were flawless all year, didn't have any mechanical problems all year. Everything worked great. We just didn't get it done in the end, one fish short. But we appreciate you guys following us all year. And remember, if you're up north fishing in the summer, that wacky Cinco right there, that bait will catch more fish easier than any bait you've ever thrown if you need to produce bass of any kind, largemouth, smallmouth, or spotted bass. So watching stuff, we got some cool new baits coming out from Livingston. I've been working on a Livingston Walking Boss Junior, a Walking Boss 2 Junior, and a new Junior jerk bait. Smaller components finally for us to have some smaller baits for some junior models, so be watching for that. And then also remember kingshome.com, we'll be talking later about that, but give that Triton Mercury away November 23rd this year, so y'all stay tuned, get your tickets for that. And until we see you on the water at a show somewhere, at a church event, thanks for following us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and good luck, God bless, we'll see you on the water.